Good afternoon and welcome to Woman Wednesdays. I'm Teresa with Tea Time with Afternoon Social, and we have Marin Laukka joining us again today for Woman Wednesdays. Again, she was with us on Monday and described a lot of her milestones and has some exciting information, so go back and check that video if you haven't yet. And Marin is a coach, a speaker, and an author, and she has a master's degree in positive developmental psychology and certified in life coaching and yoga. And she, as a business owner and owner of Yes And, which she described to us before, she passionately supports women to free themselves from doubt and fear so they can make their positive impact and experiences true fulfillment. And today, part of what helps with that is journaling. I'm a big journaler too. And so when I saw that she had this on her website, I thought, oh, this would be great because she has some information and some tips on how to improve your journaling to help you achieve those milestones and a more positive lifestyle. So I'm going to turn it over to Marin to explain to us about her program with the journaling. So, hi, Marin. How are you today?
I'm wonderful. Good to see you again.
Yeah, it's great. I'm glad you're with us this week. And you said you've got some training on daily journaling. So go ahead and explain that to us and what all is available and how we can get into those resources.
Yes. So all of this is housed either on my website, like you mentioned, or on my YouTube channel directly. So that is Yes And by Marin, YESANDBYMARIN, either.com or on YouTube. And to go into a little bit more personal side of that, because that's the training, the breakdown, you have some PDFs you can download. But the real crux of this, and from my approach, I take it from positive psychology and then all my experience as a coach, coaching for over 5 years. What I find with journaling is that as with anything, it can be really beneficial, and sometimes it can, in a sneaky way, kind of be detrimental. So we want to make sure that we create a journaling exercise and routine that is, of course, helpful for our development rather than hurtful. So first, to address that part of where it can be sneaky, sometimes journaling, especially people who are really called toward journaling, are really good at being intentional and being reflective. So that's already in their nature. And sometimes what this can lead to is that endless thought loop, those spiraling thoughts that maybe you can relate with when we get stuck on a question or we kind of go down a rabbit hole that at some point isn't helpful. I think we've all experienced this in some way. And this isn't a bad thing. This is a normal part of our human experience, especially if we're reflective in nature. And so knowing this, that sometimes we can slip into this rabbit hole or thought loop that is no longer productive, what I really encourage my clients and you today to try with journaling is to have some sort of prompt. And when I say prompt, I don't necessarily mean a list of 5 questions, although you can find many of those on my website and on YouTube if you want that specific prompts. What I mean, however, in the general sense of prompt is just to have an intention, almost a meta view, an intention for your journaling. So before going into it, are you trying to answer a question or just sit with a question? In which case, just notice, let yourself, flow with that thought or flow with that question, brainstorm different possibilities. And if you start to feel like you're stuck, then take a step back and say, okay, am I still trying to answer this question? Or am I now clutching that I need to find answer, or this isn't enough, or I've tangentially made it to some other area of my life that wasn't even applicable to the first area. A prompt might also look like something that's really common now that I've seen trending, which is good, is gratitude prompts. So just writing down what you're grateful for, or goals. So this is actually from somewhere from Rachel Hollis. I don't think she was the original woman to come up with this, but writing down goals as if they have already happened. So I did that practice for a while. There's also a prompt, which is writing down your fears, which can feel really scary at first. And after some time, it actually feels way better than letting them inside. So I think of fears as holding a beach ball underwater. If we always suppress them and we think that they're bad and we can't listen to them, or it's scary to listen to them, then we're just going to hold it underwater. And one of these days, that beach ball is going to pop up above the surface, probably at an inopportune time. And so a fear journal exercise would just be to write down, what am I afraid of? What am I scared of? Of course, check in with yourself if you're feeling supported or comfortable to do that, or maybe you bring on another layer of support, be it a friend or a coach or someone else to walk you through that process. But the crux of all of this is to have something to kind of guide the journaling practice. And I do want to add a caveat. A guide or an intention could also just be, I want to get what's in my head out on paper. And that's enough. So it's not to say something super, super specific, or it's wrong to have a really general journaling practice. Rather, it's just to say, can we guide this in a productive, feel-good way, rather than feel like we get stuck with our pen on paper or typing on a keyboard?
Right. Yeah, I've just thought about that too. You were talking about pen and paper versus typing on a keyboard. I'm a real big proponent of pen and paper, because for some reason you can really feel that what you're writing and more intention by focusing on that, rather than when you get on a computer, you might mind wander and not pay attention, get distracted and all that. So which one do you really prefer to do?
I alternate. There are a lot of studies that suggest pen and paper is the way to go, especially with anything that has some sort of emotion, which is most things in life. It really helps with memory. It helps with a lot of things. So in the mornings, I do pen and paper, and that's also a nice way for me to not look at a screen right away in the morning. However, I'm faster when I'm typing on a keyboard. And so if there's something that I feel like there's just a lot going on in my head, I'll often pull up my Word document that I've had running since 6th grade, so many years ago, and I will just type away and just let it be kind of gibberish. But that way it can go a little bit faster, and I can really just get all of my thoughts out of my mind at once.
That can be really helpful when you're actually working, since you work at home from home and you're working along and your mind starts to wander. You can flip over there and write it down and go back to what you were doing. Then, because I think that also promotes that positivity of like, no, I have to work. I can't have these thoughts, but it's just really allowing you to be creative, and we can't control when thoughts always come to us. So that takes away some of that control. And I think that's what part of that fear is trying to control too many things at once. So we're afraid we're not going to get any of it right. So what would you have for some other positive ways to journal that would get rid of those fears instead of just writing those fears down? Is there some prompts for positive affirmations or things that you follow? Or
Yes. Yeah. With fear specifically, I actually on Instagram, I've been playing with Instagram Reels. Maybe some of you with TikTok, that is trending now. And I've been creating this fear character. And I do this with clients a lot, which is actually to actually personify these different parts of ourselves. So we could just as easily do this for our dreamer self or our achiever self. But for our fear self, it's really interesting. So like I said, I do this with my clients, and then you can see it on Instagram, how I personified this part of me. And with journaling, we can do the same thing. So it's to kind of have a conversation with our fears. So you can name your fear, name whoever you're speaking with. So maybe it's like your achiever and your fear are having a conversation, or your dreamer and your fear are having a conversation. That's a really common one. And just go back and forth with a dialogue and let yourself be creative, let yourself be silly, and just see what happens there. Oftentimes there's a lot of insight. And just like that beach ball metaphor earlier, it's a lot less scary when we just bring it to the surface and look at it. And you can actually think of yourself as like sitting down in a room or having a coffee next to your fear and having that conversation and just asking questions like, hey, what's going on? Start broad. Just be like, what's going on? You're really loud right now and you're kind of freaking me out. What do you have to say? And seeing what comes from this fear part of ourself. You can also ask things like, is there something that you're wanting right now? Is there something you're needing? And with myself, for instance, what often comes up with fears, even though on the surface they may vary in what it looks like or sounds like, at the heart of it oftentimes is just a need for safety. That's something that comes up for me. And so it's to say, hey, what do you need right now? Oftentimes my fear will, quote unquote, say back, I just need to feel safe in some way. And it doesn't even need to be, for instance, if I'm making a big business decision, it doesn't even have to be in that business decision. It's just to say, can you remind me that like we have a roof over our head and we have friends and we have a support system? And so again, it's making it not as scary, because it's not even asking to not make this decision at hand. It's just saying, hey, just remind me that there's something that I can lean on here. Another great exercise that I love to do with fears specifically is to ask a version of a truth question. So 2 versions that I can share right now. One is that true? So if your fear is saying something, quote unquote, saying something to you, like, we're going to go bankrupt. This is a really bad decision. We're going to go bankrupt. To just ask yourself or ask the fear, is that true? And if we take truth in its form of like, is that for sure guaranteed? Most often the answer is no. And then we can ask a follow-up to say, well, what else could be true? And it's not even saying what else is going to happen. It's just saying what else could be true. It's opening up the possibility to say, well, maybe we'll actually get really wealthy from this decision. Maybe it stays completely the same. Maybe I do go bankrupt and then, yes, and I get support from someone who then propels this other avenue in my life that I didn't even know wanted to exist. So there are all these different possibilities that when we're in a place of fear, we often get in that tunnel vision. So just to journal out or to speak with ourselves in some way, to have those conversations, expand our view of possibility, and get out of that tunnel is really helpful.
Yeah, that's fantastic. You talk about people are too afraid and hanging on to like, oh, I don't want to be bankrupt, I don't want to be homeless. But yet you hear these great stories of all these millionaires. I was homeless, I went bankrupt 3 or 4 times. And it's like, so writing down those possibilities, well, so what if I go bankrupt? And so what if I go homeless? Then what? There are answers. I don't have to plan everything right this minute and figure it all out right now. Because sometimes we have opportunities we don't even, we'll miss them because we're too focused on what we think we ought to do instead of saying, oh, hey, there's another avenue over here. I didn't even see that. So, and I think that's what's really important about journaling, because then you start opening up your mind to, oh, well, what if this and what if that? So that might be another prompt that they could use as a what if statements. What if I did achieve a millionaire status? What would my life look like?
Yes. To actually follow those paths. I love that you brought that up. So to either use what if statements or to use then what statements. So, okay, I become a millionaire. Then what? I get my dream car. Then what? I'm kind of at the same place that I am right now.
Right.
It leads us to really interesting places. That's really just a cookie crumb to follow. And it's not right or wrong, good or bad. It's just interesting information and oftentimes helps us to feel more certain and clear in our present moment.
Mm-hmm. And one thing women don't really understand, that everybody is creative, and creative doesn't really mean artistic. Creative even could be thinking of all the different possibilities. So we all have a creative mind. And this journaling, I think, really brings that out, that I came up with this. I can figure that out. I didn't know I could even write a poem. I didn't know what I could do until I started writing.
Mm-hmm. Yes, absolutely.
Well, I think we're getting close to our time, and I really enjoy talking with you today, Marin. And we will have her again tomorrow for the Try It Thursdays. And she has a 7 steps in decision-making process that she's going to go over with us to try tomorrow. So go back and, like I said, check the video out from Monday and again from tomorrow. And we will talk to you again tomorrow. Bye-bye.